Someone who knows that pressure well is former prosecutor and civil rights attorney Kristen Gibbons-Fedden, whose fiery closing argument in the Bill Cosby trial earned her widespread praise. It's good to see you again, Kristen. You know, in channeling your own experience, how intensive are the preparations, the final preparations that are going on? What are lawyers doing right now?
Yeah, so, you know, when you look at a trial as if the closing argument is truly that grand finale and really your only opportunity to really weave the evidence into a compelling narrative that truly aims to leave the jury with that lasting impression, you fully understand how important a closing argument is and how important it is to really prepare for it. So, you know, what I think the prosecutors and the defense attorneys are really doing right now is they're putting together all of their evidence. They're coming up with the most compelling and captivating, clear narrative that truly is going to tie all of the evidence together and kind of stitch it into that compelling story that's really supported by the evidence. I think one of the things they really need to focus on too, Chris, is to outline pillars of credibility, particularly in this case where you have Cohen, you have Costello on the other hand, and you have so many different varying narratives. So they really do need to focus on those pillars of credibility.
So court adjourned last Tuesday, and of course, closings in many cases would have happened on Wednesday or Thursday, but the holiday weekend, other promises that were made about having court be dark. Do you think having a week to prepare is a benefit, or can you overthink a closing argument given too much time?
You can absolutely overthink it, Chris. You're so right. I think that when you have that much time, it is so easy to overthink it. But I think it is important in this case to remember, you know, this case has been going on for weeks. So, yeah, you have the opportunity to overthink it. But this had so much evidence and so many documentary evidence as well, not just testimonial evidence. So the week is probably in this particular case, because it is so complex, I think it is going to be useful for both attorneys to have that much time.
You've talked about how in the Cosby case, you wrote out your closing argument word for word, and you thought super mechanical until you saw Bill Cosby laugh. And then you saw red. You threw out the script. You went from an analytical closing to an emotional one. When do you think that works? And is there a lesson in that for Trump's prosecutors?
Yeah, you know, when you're trying a case of this magnitude, and keep in mind, this is historic. And for the Cosby trial, for example, for myself, that was a celebrity. I had never tried a celebrity before. And so when you're dealing with that type of pressure, you want to get it right. You do not want to create appellate issues. And so in the minds of the attorneys, that's what's kind of really being challenged. That's the impairment that they have, the obstacle that they had in terms of really being the best lawyer that they can, you know. But I think in this particular case, it's complex. So they have to be super analytical. They have to be clear. They have to be focused, because they really need to lead the jury very methodically through their narrative, particularly the prosecutors. They need to lay out the elements of the crime. You know, they have to lay out those elements, but then also show how each piece of evidence that they elicited shows that element. So, for example, in here, you know, prosecutors have to show that Trump caused the false entries to be made in those business records. So they have to highlight all of the evidence. They have to highlight the invoices. They have to highlight the testimony. They have to show that reimbursement of the $420,000, which was the double up to cover taxes. Then they have to show that Trump created those false entries with the intent to defraud. So then they have to kind of go through those compelling pieces of evidence. They have to cite Hope Hicks' testimony, right, where Trump made very clear that he wanted to quash Stormy Daniels' story before the election. And then they have to show that Trump's intent was to commit or conceal another crime. And then they're going to highlight that particular evidence. So it is so important to make sure that the prosecutors stay clear, stay focused, show that their case is not simply just resting on Michael Cohen, and show that they have so much corroborative evidence to support their case. And they need to highlight that they have proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt.
You know, this jury is highly educated. It includes 2 lawyers, a lot of professionals. How much does the makeup of the jury impact how that closing argument is shaped?
I think that is the most important thing. You know, as a lawyer, when I craft my closing arguments, I take into account every single juror. You know, when you pick a jury, you're going to get those jury statements that outlines what they do, where they live. And so you're able to make some assumptions about that particular juror. You know if they have kids, and if so, how many. You know their age. And so all of those factors will go into it. For example, when I would be giving any closing argument, particularly the one in Cosby, I would make sure to look at specific jurors. But it's interesting, Chris, because it's not just their demographics that really dictate the closing arguments. I make sure throughout the entirety of the trial that I look at and am mindful and conscious of the juror's demeanor during specific portions. So when, for example, in Cosby, when one of the young ladies who was a prior act witness was testifying, I saw, you know, one of the jurors kind of emote in a very sad way, you know, almost giving me the thought that that particular juror was being empathetic to that person. And so when I was talking about that particular witness's testimony, I made sure to zero in on that juror because I know that that particular juror emoted in a certain way. So the makeup of the jury is super important, but not just in terms of their demographics, but also in terms of their entire demeanor throughout the trial.
Kristen Gibbons-Fedden, thank you.